Alright, ladies and gentlemen, spawning here in the top right-hand corner of Cloud Kingdom as the green Protoss, 4-gating in the first game, doing a decent amount of damage, but having to tap out after the sentries and the contain on Taeja got taken out. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Grubby. What will he be able to do in game number 2 against the Terran Beast that we have spawning in the bottom left-hand corner, holding off the 4-gate barely in game number 1, and perhaps winning that game a little bit earlier than he could have, but he'll definitely take that. A point is a point. He's now 1 game away from 2-0ing a fan favorite over here in Europe. Will he be able to do it? Representing Team Liquid, it is Taeja. And I've taken a look at, I've read a couple of things, interesting things said in chat actually, and I do agree to an extent with a lot of the stuff people are saying. I mean, at the end of the day, Taeja had a larger army and he had medevacs. It was always going to be tough for Grubby to hold. But I'm still a little bit surprised that, and Grubby is a player as well. He's famous for playing on from positions where you think he might be lost and then trying to tough it out in that game. So I'm a little surprised Grubby honestly tapped out when he did. I thought he would have at least attempted to hold at the natural ramp. And to be honest, I actually think that's fair enough. I mean, you want to at least attempt to hold, but it looked like Grubby maybe he wants to save his energy for game number 2. I'm not entirely certain. He, of course, had a larger income. It's a question of whether he would be able to get enough units warped out in time and whether he can counter the medevac. It's going to be a little bit iffy. But he did have 4 warp gates, and he could have at least tried, I think, is what I really want to say. So regardless of whether you think the outcome was supposed to be one or the other, and opinion seems to be divided on the issue, I do think that it was worth Grubby's time to at least try and make some sort of hold out of that. But anyway, we have differing strategies here in Game 2 already because Taeja has gone for a gas after the barracks has gone down at his choke point. So he's not going to be going for a 1 Rax expand. He will be going a little bit more conservative this time around, going to be staying on 1 base just for a while longer. We'll see what happens with that. Grubby just going to be moving out with a first Zealot. Nothing too exciting so far. And he's actually going to be attempting to take his Nexus right this minute. So a 1-gate expand is coming out from Grubby. And Taeja looks like his SCV just moved straight past it. But we'll probably suspect that the Nexus is now down. He's going to move down the ramp at some point soon, and he will see that the Nexus is there. Just wanting to state, check the gas timings of Grubby at the moment. Things looking all right indeed, and it looks like we have a Marauder opening coming out from Taeja, who has started with that concussive shell. So he's going to be moving out to try and snipe off a couple of early units from Grubby out in the center of the map, and why not? This is a very aggressive opening, especially against Protoss. It's really frustrating when your Stalkers start getting kited or they can't run away, and your Zealots are too slow to catch up to the units with that concussive shell. And you might just lose a couple of units early on in the game, and that's exactly what Taeja wants to do in this position when he is 1-0 up in this series. The second gas now being taken. Will Taeja see it? He's not actually microing the SCV, and I'm afraid that scout is going to disappear from Taeja without him knowing that the second gas was taken. Concussive shell is now complete, and this Zealot better run for his life. And oh no, there goes the concussive shell, so the Zealot will not live to see another day, even microing back his Taeja to make sure he takes exactly 0 damage from that. Very well played there from both sides, but Taeja able to get the better of that Zealot at the end of the day. In the meantime, the Nexus is now completely done, and notice how the probes are being rallied up, because Grubby knows that Taeja is going for a very, very aggressive opening here, and because he's going for an opening this aggressive, he needs to try and get units out to defend, and he doesn't want his probes to get picked off when they're mining over here. So that's why we see the probes exiting the Nexus here, going up top, so Grubby can get as many units as he possibly can in case this Nexus ends up going down. We do see a couple of initial units, in fact, pulling probes as well is Grubby, and this might end up being pretty good indeed. Those probes are mineral walking past the army, and they're now going to be boxing them in. Those Marauders are suffering an awful lot of damage right now, but only a single Stalker is left. Both Marauders are about to die, though, and it looks like what's left is mainly a single Marauder and a bunch of SCVs. I think Grubby might be able to hold here, but at what cost? How many probes does he have mining? Only a handful, but excellently held there from Grubby. Really great foresight to know to move the probes down beforehand. Had he realized that when the Marauders were just a little bit further forward, 1 or 2 of his Stalkers would have died by the time the probes engaged. That was really cool stuff coming out of there from Grubby, who now has a 13 supply lead. We have Taeja going for the 3rd command center once again. Really preferring this macro-heavy style, and most of Stim is already complete for him, but this game, Grubby is able to grab his natural expansion and just continue mining off of that 2 base. Getting a robotics facility down now as well, and warp gate to boot. So Grubby looking okay, excellent hold there from him. The worker count is currently 37 to 28 in favor of our Protoss. In the meantime, still only 1 gas being taken in the main base of Taeja, of course, because he had to use all of those minerals to effectively double expand this early on in the game. Just going to be putting some units in a bunker to make sure there isn't any really scary follow-up attack here from Grubby. We see a probe here trying to hold the watchtower, but unfortunately with a marine on the way as well, that's not going to be possible for very long indeed. Grubby looking like he is stabilizing. He's actually going to be going up to all 4 of his gases at this point in time. And we've got another gateway and a robotics facility. So Grubby transitioning into 3 gates and a robo at this point of the game. In the meantime, what is Taeja going to be getting up to? We see 2 reactors going down on barracks numbers 2 and 3. We have an engineering bay going down for our Terran player as well, in addition to a factory. I would not be surprised to see a starport placed right here in just a moment, and a reactor put on that factory so we can get those medevacs out ASAP. In the meantime, though, in base of Grubby, we have got the robotics bay. Very quick robotics bay coming out here from our Protoss. So he wants to get up to that Colossus tech as quickly as he conceivably can. Did that scan see the robotics bay? I get the impression it did. Yes, it did. So, Taeja does know that the Colossi are incoming now, and that's going to allow him to consider getting those Vikings a little bit earlier than he otherwise would. We have got a lot more gateways coming down now, though, for Grubby. We're actually going up to 6 gateways and a forge, in addition to that robotics bay now chrono boosting out that extended thermal lance. We'll be getting those Colossi out very, very shortly indeed. He is up to 71 supply versus the 65 of Liquid Taeja at the moment. Still playing a little bit defensively, just kind of massaging his army composition to what he thinks is necessary to defeat his opponent at this time. Adding on a couple more barracks, we should be seeing that starport land on that reactor very, very shortly indeed. There we go. Now let's see if we grab a couple of medevacs before the Vikings, or if we're going to be going straight into a couple of Vikings. Excellent scan. They're picking off an observer as well, and it looks like we're going half and half. So we have a medevac and a Viking simultaneously training here for Taeja. Meanwhile, Grubby is going to be pushing out with a number of gateway units and an immortal in the back to boot. Will it be enough, though, to defeat this Bioboss? He has to be so careful, and he needs to be so good with his force fields if he wants to do this. Grubby might not have enough unless the force fields are supreme at this point. He really wants to be careful until he gets a little bit more of a death ball kind of composition. So he's going to be moving back at this time. It looks like he's just put down his 3rd Nexus as well, looking forward to grabbing some of those minerals and seeing if he can get away with it while applying a little bit of pressure to Taeja, who is floating his factory across the middle of the map. And nice force fields there from Grubby, exactly what we needed to see. Half a force field donut, and Taeja is forced to lift some units and move back. So Grubby trying to keep his opponent as well contained as he possibly can at the moment, so that he can afford to take his 3rd. That Colossus immediately incinerating that Marine. Really not much that could have been done there in the factory. You're going to be scouting the 3rd base location by the looks of things for Taeja. Grubby now up to 104 supply to Taeja's 109 as the Twilight Council completes for him as well. So things are looking pretty tense here in game number 2. Grubby really showing us what he's made of. Macro style, not afraid to take additional bases against his possibly more illustrious opponent based on recent results, and really enjoying an excellent run as well in the GSL. But is he going to be able to pull out the same thing here? We have got now combat shields a little bit late, but never mind at the moment. Going to be coming in because we don't really have any massive engagement so far. It looks like the forward pylon from Grubby is going to get spotted and taken out. No big deal. And the factory here from Taeja is going to be able to scout that the 3rd base is there. Just going to be moving back for a second to sort of check things out. I'm surprised we don't see a couple of stalkers come here to harass it. And there we go. It looks like the Stalkers and the Sentries are going to be giving that factory driver a very hard time indeed. Is it going to start burning? It very well might at this rate. And that means that the time left on that scout would be very limited indeed. There we go. The factory has started burning down. But Taeja using this opportunity to move into the natural expansion somewhat. Grubby has seen this with that probe, so he needs to be ultra careful. And Taeja going to be moving in with a drop's worth of medevacs at the back here. But we have 2 Zealots and a Photon Cannon here at the natural expansion. And oh no, that actually pulls Grubby's army out of position. He needs to be careful not to go there. And there we go. But We have a possible engagement at the third. Note that these High Templar are out, but Storm is not yet complete. He still has about a minute until Storm, so ideally he'd want that in his army composition before engaging with Taeja's army at this time, and Taeja immediately throwing down that Ghost Academy as soon as he sees that we have High Templar out on the field. A small band of units now going to be harassing the Zealots at the natural expansion. Excellent feedback there on the medevac, so unable to get any more healing off and almost killing the thing as well. So that was really, really good stuff coming out there from Grubby, and Taeja is forced to retreat 3 base versus 3 base here at the 14.5-minute mark in game number 2 of this TVP. In the meantime, more and more units coming out from Taeja into the middle of the map. He has got 1-1 upgrades at the moment, and Grubby also has 1-1. He just started ground armor level 2, but 2-2 is actually nearly complete for Taeja, so he will have the upgrade advantage over Grubby as it currently stands. We have a second forge only now just going down for Grubby, which means Taeja should be enjoying that advantage, even with a chrono boost on those upgrades, for a little while indeed. I wonder if he's going to be using some sort of 2-2 timing to try and inflict a little bit of hurt on that third base of Grubby. In the meantime, another command center, as you can see, going down at the third base location. This is likely to become the fourth. 3 ghosts at a time being produced now from Taeja, just continuously destroying destructible rocks all over the map, so that in any future engagement, we don't necessarily have to worry about sentries force fielding off these units quite as easily as they otherwise would have. So Taeja thinking ahead, making sure he can fight in more places on the map as well, and continuing to increase his capacity. We see we have a couple more barracks going down in the main base as well. +3 has started for Taeja too, so we want to see some chrono boosted upgrades coming out here from Grubby. We see +2 armor nearly complete, and now chrono boosting out +2 ground weapons as well. It looks like that Taeja might not be hitting before +2 ground armor finishes, which is in about a minute's time, because his army's still sort of hanging around the third. So his upgrade advantage will hopefully just be minimal compared to Grubby. Otherwise we might see a one-sided fight should that happen. But of course, neither player knows exactly what the other's timings are at this very moment. We have gravitic boosters actually coming in for Grubby at the moment. Very interested to see what he does with that. We have got 2 High Templar and 2 Zealots in a War Prism over here near the 4th base location. So it looks like he might be going in to try and take a little bit of a swipe at the main base. This is going to be pretty interesting, and Taeja moving forward, taking out an observer there en route to going to hit Grubby, and the ghosts are in the front of the army. He needs to be oh so careful. Grubby, with this War Prism in the bottom, could do something with that simultaneously. A lot of force fields going down, preventing Taeja from coming up. Is the army going to be moving towards a natural expansion? Grubby might assume it is. Let's find out what's going to happen here. And Grubby actually double expanding, almost Zerg style. He's taking the top left of the map very, very sneakily, but also taking this base here. But the War Prism now is going to be going to work. He dropped 2 units. He's going to drop the other 2 now. Here comes the other High Templar and the Zealot. A nice storm on those SCVs, but not too many of them dying. And we actually have SCVs following the High Templar around at the moment, amusingly. How many workers have been killed? It looks like the third base was killed a decent amount. 6 at the moment, and Taeja is still posturing in the middle of the map. He doesn't know about either of these expansions as it currently stands, so he might be able to find and kill one, but the other one will probably be up and mining by the time this happens. We are now up to 2-2 for Grubby, and 3-3 is not yet complete for Taeja. So as it currently stands, we actually have upgrade parity on the field. So even though Taeja's a lot faster with his 3-3, he didn't use the timing, didn't feel like it was appropriate to attack in the window where he had that upgrade advantage, possibly wanting to wait for more units, but he is now actually maxed out, and Grubby is at 195 supply as well, so that's going to be very important. We have another observer out on the field so that he can see when Taeja's army is going to be moving out. Taeja skirting around the outside of that third base at the moment. There's another observer right in the middle here. These things are so hard to see when they're still. Very, very difficult to spot. But it looks like, is he going to spot it? No, Taeja's just going to be moving forward at this point, and he is just going to be checking out to see if there's a base here, and there will be. So immediately taking that out is a Taeja. We have a forward pylon down here at the 4th base as well. Are we going to get any additional damage done? We also have a command center going down here at a 5th base for Taeja. Everything is going on in this game. Still only 7 and 2 workers killed though, so we're going to be watching out for a little bit more harassment a little bit later. Now, yellow and green, of course, very difficult to spot on the minimap, but hopefully we will be seeing some of that action. We have a pylon going down on the bottom here as well, just in case. And there we go. A High Templar might be able to take out a couple of SCVs once the 4th base gets a little bit more mature. We do see Grubby now safely mining from the top left expansion. Taeja still moving out with his army through the middle of the map. 3-3 is now complete, and he's also getting +2 Terran ship weapons. That's going to be excellent damage against the Colossus. We see Grubby picking apart a unit or two here, getting scanned from Taeja just to double check exactly what's going on. And it looks like Taeja's deciding he wants to move in with those ghosts. He's actually moving up towards the top of the ramp. Excellent snipe off on one of those High Templar. Guardian Shield being forced from Grubby here, but Taeja deciding not to move in at this time. The ghosts going off to one side. Are they going to be able to snipe anything off? I'm not sure. We need some really good EMPs here. 2 preemptive force fields from Grubby just to prevent it. And we have a storm going off there on some of the Vikings. That's a decent amount of damage done, actually. Needs to be a little bit careful, but Grubby almost losing one of those Colossus there. And Taeja, I think, is just trying to run Grubby out of energy at the moment so he can try and stim up the ramp. But I think Grubby's a little bit too clever for that. He will have a decent number of High Templar available, and even then he'll have Archons against those clumped up bio units that are going to be coming up the ramp. Taeja now switching to the natural expansion. However, Grubby does see this via the observer he has out. He has a decent number of observers out on the map right now, taking out the destructible rock so that he has a decent concave up top and a good surface area. And Grubby just keeping tabs on everything that Taeja is doing at the moment, and he is also now up to 3 upgrades. In the meantime, we have a couple more units being warped in at the 4th base, but it looks like this small band of Marauders, and in fact the entire army from Grubby moving back here, so that's going to get taken up pretty darn quickly indeed. Another forward pylon over here on the left-hand side location. Looking like, oh dear, that's going to go down as well. So there aren't too many forward pylons here for Grubby at the moment. If we take a look at his vision, he has got an observer by this base, but that's really about it at the moment. Taking the watchtower, seeing exactly what is on offer here, and using the high ground to his advantage, because those Colossi really do love that sweet spot on the high ground, able to get a good concave off on the Terran units, but needs to be very careful of those Vikings. There aren't actually that many Vikings out on the field at the moment. 7 Vikings for 5 Colossi. So he's not going to be able to kill the Colossi quite as quickly as he would have otherwise liked, and that might mean Grubby can do a lot of damage against this bio army. Taeja has to be really careful in this engagement. Grubby now going to be going for +1 on his shield upgrades as well, because why the heck not? And we have got a nuke in production, ladies and gentlemen, as well as Terran weapons level 3. There is the nuke being produced inside that silo. In the meantime, it looks like Taeja going to be posturing to move up towards the top left base. I think Grubby sees this. He's going to have to give up this space, but he might be able to trap the army in the corner, and if he does this, Taeja could potentially be in a bad position if Grubby gets a decent number of storms off. He has to be so careful, and there we go. Look at that one storm, picking apart so much of that bio army. A lot of the ghosts being cloaked, though, and some huge EMPs going off on pretty much everything, including all the High Templar in the back, and now Taeja going to be moving back forward. Having a lot of trouble is Grubby at the moment. A lot of units got EMP'd, but managing to get a single defensive storm off, and both sides are going to back up, but Grubby is definitely going to lose this base now. That High Templar also getting sniped off, so no additional storm available, and a storm at this point with that entire army in the yellow could have been absolutely devastating indeed, but it looks like this base is going, and Grubby is coming in for take 2. Will he be able to do it? We still have some energy left on those ghosts. Is it going to be enough? The High Templar need to try and feedback them, but it looks like Grubby is actually running with his tail between his legs at the moment. He has no answer for the ghost because he doesn't have an observer quite yet there, so the Colossus can't take it out, and both sides are going to back off, but Taeja successfully taking out a base. Grubby really needs to get an observer in with this army, because those ghosts coming forward from Taeja are really ruining his day right now. He got those excellent EMPs off, including on those High Templar, and Grubby just needs a way to be able to neutralize that right now. If he can do that, he stands a decent chance in the fight, but if he can't, things are looking slightly ropey, because we have personal cloaking for the ghosts. And here come the ghosts. A lot of snipes, and actually that was an excellent storm, killing all but 3 of those ghosts. That might be enough to buy Grubby a bit of time here. He's actually back up to 200, and he is getting a little bit of a bank himself. Not quite as much as, oh dear, never say die, but he just got effectively exclusively stormed there. That's going to hurt a lot indeed, and I think Taeja is fed up of posturing around, because where are they? There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, we have nukes at all 4 of these missile silos right now. So we could be seeing some ghosts very, very soon in this game. And oh, a beautiful storm once again from Grubby, able to take out a decent chunk of Taeja's army there. Will he be able to move down and take out more, though? Taeja is on such low health. The vast majority of this army is having a lot of trouble indeed. A nice EMP goes off by one of the ghosts, but is it going to be enough? Here we go. A massive number of Colossi. The Vikings just aren't able to deal damage fast enough, and the storms destroy so many Colossi, so many Vikings at the same time, rather. And I think Grubby has this. Taeja going down to underneath 100 supply, not even killing all the Colossi. are the Vikings, and all of a sudden, Taeja is looking like just a little bit of a sitting duck, blinking forward to try and take out those ghosts. Do we have detection here? We need detection, because those cloaked ghosts are actually doing a healthy amount of damage to the rest of this army. There we go, 2 observers coming in from Grubby now, and the ghosts are going to get cleaned up, and the third base and the main base, where all the production structures are crucially, are now under siege from Grubby, and I think Taeja is in a lot of trouble in this game number 2. Grubby was just so patient. He waited for those storms and waited until he was in an excellent position. The EMPs from Taeja were brilliant. The snipes from Taeja were brilliant, but Grubby just kept holding back. So while Taeja got excellent EMP shots off, he didn't follow it up with killing the rest of Grubby's army because Grubby pulled back with the defensive storm. That was so good on Grubby's part. And now Grubby is reaping the rewards of that. He is back up to 172 supply versus the 92 of Taeja, and it's looking like he might be poised to take this game number 2 and level the series 1-0. Another excellent storm utilizing the Sim City that Taeja has in his base, knowing that the units have to go a certain way, and everything is still camped out. So many units here. We have a lot of Archons, Colossi in the back, and it's just impossible for Taeja to take everything out. GG! And ladies and gentlemen, in a 29-minute game, it looks like Grubby is going to be taking game number 2, and he will be leveling the series up 1-all. Absolutely amazing game 2 there. Great storms from Grubby, and more importantly, great patience from him as well, because he could have pushed in on several occasions where it would have been a little bit dicey, but he just waited and waited and let bases get taken and waited until he had the perfect opportunity to engage outside the natural expansion. Beautifully played, and the series is now tied at 1-1. Game number 3 coming right up.